one good conversation can shift the direction of change forever.
Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to another special episode of the Between Us podcast. Make every conversation count. And today is a very special episode because I am your producer Arnav Dogra, and today I have our host Santosh Kumar in front of me, filling into the guest shoes. And I can't wait to see how this episode goes. So, Santosh, what made you come up with the idea for this episode? It's very different from what you usually do, right?
Well, thank you, Arnav. It's always exciting to be inside the studio. It's exciting to be a guest, meet interesting people, listen to their stories and experiences. And I thought we are already 19 episodes down. We are getting into the next phase of our podcast, the 20th episode. And we're also entering the 12th month of the year. So it's time to reflect upon the year in terms of this year has been really special for me in terms of starting off a new career, meeting interesting people, but most importantly, being in front of the camera, something which I had never envisaged for a long time.
And today the camera is right in front of you.
Yes, it is. And that's kind of really, it's still nerve wracking for me. I'm still conscious of the camera. But what really gets me going are the wonderful stories.
So, Santosh, a big part of my perspective during this journey has been watching you grow your skills and basically enhance how you function in this production environment. And as you always ask your guests, I would like to ask you, let's begin from the beginning. And I want you to tell how this all started.
Well, this all started when I was a young boy, a young kid. I grew up with my grandparents and parents and extended family. The one thing which me and my brothers and sisters, what we really loved was listening to stories before we went to bed. And I think that kind of grew on me. As an introverted kid, my best friends were my books and my journals. Um, when I transitioned into a career, a professional career, uh, I was drawn to sales because sales allowed me to meet new people, listen to their experiences. And I learned one very important rule, and that was you don't sell, you make people buy. And in order to make people buy, you tell your stories. And I think when COVID happened, there were many stories I wanted to share, stories which were very close to my heart, stories which probably I could not say because I was limited by the profession I was in.
So, I'd like to stop you there because I think you're revealing too much. And let's move on to the next question. And I want to understand, how did this podcast journey of yours begin? I mean, we know a lot about your past, obviously. I want to understand how specifically you came by to this studio and how you started by recording your first ever episode. And now we're looking at what, 15, 20 episodes. So, yeah, tell us.
So that's the typical producer Arnav who always controls and tries to keep things in perspective. But Arnav, just to go back, I think when COVID started was the first time I actually podcasted. My first podcast I remember was on the 31st of March 2020. And the topic of that podcast was mental health and how it would affect, because I had this feeling deep within me that if this lockdown were to continue, if this quarantine were to continue for a long time, mental health would be the first thing that would be affected. And as I started talking about topics which mattered to me the most, whether it's gender, climate, mental health, diversity, equality, I realized that I did not do this just for the fun of it. There was a purpose behind it. And when we all went back to work back in 21, 22, I was always reflective of why I did what I did. And I think as individuals, as people, we must always reflect upon, because the only way we can grow is when we reflect upon why certain things happen the way. Uh, 2023, everything changed when I walked into this lovely studio at Manic Pod, and I met my producer who's sitting right in front of me, Arnav Dogra, and we discussed as to how I can create a conversational podcast and tell stories, not just my stories, but stories across the country. And I distinctly remember it was the 31st of March, 2023, when I actually signed off and we decided to collaborate with Manic Pod Studio. And 27th of April, 2023, I recorded in this room my first episode on manifestation.
So, first episode on manifestation, and right now we're at what number exactly?
We're on the 19th episode.
19 episodes. That's a bulky, big number. And so that leads me to my next question. I want to understand, how has this whole process changed for you? How has the way that you feel about coming into the studio and recording changed for you?
I think, to be very honest, I still don't know if I'm completely at ease sitting in the studio, but I do know one thing: there is nothing, there is nowhere else I will be than here. For me, being in the studio, listening to stories, sharing these stories to the outside world is all that keeps me going. When I wake up in the morning and I know that I have to go to the studio and I'll be meeting an interesting personality, I'll be listening to their stories. And Arnav, you know more than anyone else. Probably today, as a young podcast, we have the most diverse group of stories we've told. Um, from a social entrepreneur to a budding author, to a fitness expert, to a climate activist, to a hand transplant surgeon. I think I did not even know that that concept existed. So, and it's probably me. I did not know. When you work, when you travel the world, you feel you know everything. But I think the greatest learning for me has been in this avatar of a podcast host.
So, as you know, I've been your producer for this whole year, throughout your podcasting journey, and I've been right there behind the camera every single episode, right? And this has been a very special year for you, hasn't it?
It has, I think, because sometimes we look at our journey and we say, "Wow, this has been a great year because everything that I wanted to do has happened." But I think we should always take a step back and ask ourselves this question: "Ha- Is it only about this year, or is it about the efforts you've put in um, years before to where you are today?" I wouldn't be podcasting today had I not taken that first step in 2020, where I really did not. I think I did not really care who was listening to me. I just had a mic, the world was shut, and I started speaking.
So I want to understand this. What was it exactly that made you get into podcasting?
I think as the world, I think as the world shut down, and we all were in our respective homes, um, not knowing where we will be a year from now or 2 years from now. um, I went into a reflective mode, asking myself. I'd almost spent about 13 to 14 years of my professional life living, working in the US, traveling, working with Fortune clients in different positions: sales, operation, research. And I thought I knew it all. But what I realized was that there were many things I truly passionately cared for, as I had mentioned to you earlier. It was there within me for a very long time. I really wanted to speak my heart out, but I did not find a forum. So I felt that having a mic in front of me and hoping that no one would listen to it, I just went on a rant, to be very honest. But as I started doing it, I realized that there is a purpose behind this. And even if one person's life changes, I think I would have made it. And that's how this journey actually began. And I went back to working, Arnav. I went back to working back in 21, 22. But somehow, something, there was this deep seed, there was a seed within me asking me this question: why did you do it in the first place?
So, as your producer and your friend, I know that you left your job to pursue a career in media, a career in podcasting, and I know the story behind it. But if I didn't know you, My first thought would be that leaving your job to pursue something with so much uncertainty, that must have been scary, right?
Arnav, honestly, uh, I don't think it was scary. What was what really mattered to me was my worry was, will I be able to deliver what I set out to do? That was my only concern. Will I be able to do justice to the stories people wanted to share with me? It was never really about whether, you know, I'll be able to get back to a job, I'll be able to make money. No, it was never about that. I think, and the reason behind that is that I have always been secure about who I am and what I wanted to do in life. So I don't think that was the scary part. The scary part was I've had so many wonderful guests, and you've been witness to them. Will I be able to do enough justice? Will I be able to share those experiences through our platform? That was my only, you know, that was something which I would ask myself. And I think one of the things which I really want to share here is, and that's the theme of this episode, which is self reflection,
Right.
which is about stepping back and asking yourself who you are, why you do what you do. I think those two questions should answer a lot of, those two questions should give you enough answers.
So it's very interesting that you say that. I think a lot of people, when they're trying to understand a public figure, someone who appears in content and in productions, people attach labels. You are the podcast guy, right? But as you know, and as you tell your guest also, behind the label, there is a person. And the person that Santosh Kumar is, how do you think your personal qualities and interests and values play into making you a better podcaster?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great question, Arnav. And it's a question which I keep asking myself, in terms of what aspects of my personality or traits have really contributed to in becoming a podcaster. I think the being authentic, being true to myself, believing in the stories which I share, um, and believing in the goodness of the world. I think we live in a world where we have too many noises around us, and too many voices within us. But the inherent goodness of the world is what keeps us going at the end of the day. I mean, you look at the world around us today, uncertain wars, a planet which is really struggling. Very recently, just I think a week back or 10 days back, we had 41 workers who got stuck inside a
Right.
mine. But if you look at it, I mean, and by the grace of God and really efforts by everyone, they are out today. When I look at all of that, I believe that it's my personal belief that at the end, it'll always work out. And if it does not, then it's still not the end. I think all through my life, I've learned this personally, that we are a sum total of our experiences, good or bad, whichever way you want to look at it. And I think my podcasting journey is the sum total of all my experiences from childhood till today. And I think as I continue this journey, it'll again be a sum total of all the experiences I would accumulate over a period of time. Um, I can only say one thing, which is something which I really want to share is, whatever you want to achieve in life, whatever you want to do in life, just remember this: if you have a desire in your heart, it is the universe's way of telling you that it is yours. You have the ability to achieve it. Now there are different tools and technologies to go with it. I use meditation. From the time I started meditation, yoga, and exercise for the last 1 year, it's completely changed my perspective. Journaling has been a tool I have been using all my life. It controls my emotions, my stresses. It makes me who I am. And as I said, being authentic is the key to success. Uh, if you know who you are and if you present yourself the way you are, I think everything will work out.
So being authentic is the true way to success, right?
Absolutely.
I definitely agree, and I can't think of a better way to, I think, end this special episode. Thank you so much, Santosh, for joining me and yourself back in the studio for this episode. Uh, can't wait to see more stuff coming out.
Absolutely. I really wanted to use this episode or this platform to, first of all, thank all our listeners out there, audiences out there for tuning in week after week, supporting us. I also wanted to take this opportunity to share with you why I did this episode. The whole idea of doing this episode was to reflect back and look at why we started this, where we are at this point, and where we want to be. So, to each one of you out there, self-reflection is important because that helps you define your purpose, that helps you define a positive mindset. The tools and technologies can be aplenty. It could be, a walk every day. It could be journaling. It could be exercising. It could be meeting new people every day. But at the end, what really matters is you believing in who you are. And every morning when you wake up, please practice gratitude. Please be grateful for whatever you have in your life. Because the more we are thankful for what we have, the more we will gain. And that's all I wanted to share. We have some very interesting episodes lined up for the month of December. Do tune in. And I cannot wait to take this podcast forward along with Arnav in the coming year. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Good.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Between Us podcast. This podcast was recorded at Manicpod Studios in Chembur, Mumbai. Our sound engineer is Moinak Chakraborty, and our producers are Arnav Dogra and Santosh Kumar. The Between Us podcast uploads episodes weekly, and we'll see you next time.